everyone, welcome back to our channel. You have Ogo here. I thought that since most people are at home today, it would be nice to share a recipe for you to stay at home and bake with me. Today we're making carrot cake. It's simple, it's easy, and it's very delicious. So stay at home and bake with me. Thank you. So the first and most important ingredients we're going to use today is your carrots. As much as possible, you want to use fresh, crunchy carrots. If you use, soft carrots, you won't be able to grate them well. You would have difficulty grating them. So make sure they are fresh and still very crunchy, and then you are ready to grate. For carrots, you need about 2 cups of grated carrots. So be sure to use at least 2 to 3 big size carrots, or as many smaller chunks like I've used about 6 or 7 small carrots, and it gives me about 2 cups, almost 2 cups, but you should have between 2.5 cups of carrots. You can make it slightly more if you want that carroty flavor. And so we're done with our carrots now, and we're just going to transfer it to a plate and set aside. The next thing is to go to your dry ingredients. At this point, we're talking about the flour. You see me here adding in the cinnamon. I love the flavor that this gives. The baking powder goes in next. The salt goes in next, and if you have some really dry nuts like poppy seeds, you can also add that. That's very optional. You can add any nuts or seeds that are very dry along with your dry ingredients, and you just mix. Yeah, you have to mix all the sides. I'm using a fork here because this is quite a small plate. If you're using a whisk, you can use a larger plate. Just mix it all up until it looks really good and slightly pale in color. Now to our wet ingredients. I'm cracking my eggs. I used about 5 small eggs. This recipe calls for 3 to 4 large eggs. I used 5 because the eggs are quite small. And then you just add in a bit of your sugar, about half of it. Mix it. And then you add the balance and mix it all up again. I like the sound. And then to that you add your honey. Mix it all up again.
And now you add the oil and mix again.
And I add ginger right now for flavor. The smell and the flavor of this ginger makes all the difference. The final ingredient I add is the sesame seeds. I love this. You can add other kinds of seeds, or nuts if you have them. And right now we're just going to, this is the core part. We're adding the flour in batches, and this is important to allow your ingredients mix and incorporate well. So I added them in about 3 batches, and you mix and add again and mix and repeat the same all over again. This is carrot cake. As much as possible, you don't want to over mix your batter. So that's why you see me, adding a little bit, mixing a little bit, and just you have a nice creamy batter. Now it's time for carrots. So we have our carrots, and we just use a fork to mix this in. You can use a spatula or anything to just mix this. You can even use a spoon. Just try to make sure you get through the edges, the bottom, and just mix it all around, and you can already see how good this looks. And the smell is so, you just have to try this.
I'm adding leftover coconut I had, just about half a cup. I've had it in the freezer for a while, so I just thought to defrost it and mix it all up. Yeah, and this is the batter. It looks really nice. It looks kind of like, well, not quite a peanut butter texture, a little bit lighter than that, but it looks really nice and creamy. And your batter shouldn't be too soft or too thick. It should be about this texture. So just fold in your batter and make sure everything is nicely incorporated. At this point, you want to preheat your oven and oil your pans that you'll be using. I'm using 2 pans today, a small 7-inch pan and a loaf pan as well. And so I'm just going to pour in the batter into both of them. And this is the part where I do the happy dance, getting ready to put everything into the oven. So you pour it, make sure everything is well settled and nicely sitting. Spread it evenly to avoid those bulges in the oven. And right now you just pop it into the oven and you can see how it looks already. It's definitely going to come out nicely. This should bake for about 30 to 35 minutes and it should be ready. So now we've taken out our cake from the oven. I'm just showing you an up-close view. If you want to know whether or not your cake is ready, just, you can see I inserted a fork to test it, but you can use a toothpick, or you can just put your hand right on top of it, and if it bounces back, you know that your cake is done and spongy and ready to eat. So yeah, we're going to coat our cake, the round one, and then we're going to eat our loaf cake just as is. So for this, I made a custard buttercream. I'm going to leave the ingredients that you need to make this, but I didn't film it. It turned out okay. This was my first try. I'll definitely look to recording it the next time I do it. Well, you basically just spread this all around. I'm not looking to cover the entire cake. I'm just covering the top of the cake. It adds a really nice flavor to this, and it's just different. So this was my first time trying this out, and I decided, the recipe I saw online actually used, almonds and pistachios and all sorts of luxurious nuts. But we know that I'm in Nigeria. So I decided to use groundnuts. Groundnuts are very readily available in Nigeria if you live in Nigeria. And this turned out very well. It gave it a very nutty flavor. And it was beautiful, just as you can see. Just spreading this all around, and we're just going to take a cut into this cake. And oh my gosh, look at that. Just look at that. Just look at that. So you can see how beautiful it is, and we're just going to go into the carrot cake. At this point, the carrot loaf, just look, you can see the tiny bits of sesame seeds in it. It's beautiful, and it turned out really well and nice. I'm just going to cut another slice for you to see. Yes, this is a slice of the cake. Very nice, very cool. And this is a final output. It looks beautiful, it tastes really good. And I can tell you, all the ingredients really added some deep flavor into it. The ginger was not overpowering, but I could still feel that flavor and taste it. You should try this, and I'm sure you would love it. It's so easy to make, so quick to make, and you can use it as a dessert. You can use it as a side for, having breakfast with tea and any other thing. Watch your calories, of course, and let me know if you would like to see more of these recipes. If you do try this, please leave me a comment letting me know how it turned out, and leave me a picture. You can send me a message here or on Instagram. Thank you so much for baking with me today. Stay safe, stay happy, enjoy.